Hello everyone! Hi! So, as promised, this is the next piece of Mechwarrior Academy. But before that, I do have to say we are playing Fallout Equestria tonight at 9 p.m. Be there. Seriously, apparently there's something big that's going to happen and Moon isn't telling the players what it is. He just told us a specific time of day that it will happen, so we're all staring at him like, what? In the meantime, where I am right now should be rather interesting. Some of you were wondering what this website was while I was talking just then. This website is smurfy.net.de. Now it is linked in the description below. It is mwo.smurfy-net.de, and this is a website you can use to build battle mechs without having to pay for them. You can see what all the different mechs are, scrolling through here, see what slots they have at a glance, but furthermore you can see stuff like what all the different equipment baselines are at a glance and have a quick comparison. You can also see the statistics of the hottest mechs of the day, the ones who have been run the most for the day, and you can see the setups that people were making for them. So you can see builds of mechs that already work, run, and function. Lastly, well, not lastly, you come up here to the map and you can check the spawn zones and you can start to learn the maps and learn how they work, as well as all of the maps are currently available. Even ones that are not in rotation can be looked at, as well as the Solar 7 arenas. If it'll, there it goes. And the faction warfare maps are all available to have a look at and see just what's there and how it works, as well as for you to come up with battle plans and capabilities for executing said plans. Lastly, and most importantly, Smurfy's provides a mech lab where I can set whatever mech I want. So I'm looking to get a new heavy mech, for instance. Specifically a Black Knight. So if I scroll over here and go to Black Knight and I say Black Knight 7. Here's a Black Knight 7 completely stripped of everything with no specials. And then I can check off the stuff I want to add on to it. I can come up here to Tools and hit something like Max Armor. I can manually adjust this. And if I'm logged in, which I'm not right now, I can save and share the loadout and show it off to my friends and have them critique my loadout. So I can come in here and I can say, I want a light 350 engine. Done. And it throws it in, it takes up the slots it's supposed to take up, everything's done for me. And it tells me how much this is going to cost to do. It tells me how much the mech is, it tells me how much it's going to cost for the modifications I'm making, and how much how many C-bills I need to have on hand to put this thing together. And so from there I'd go, I want 2 heavy VPCs, and then I want a bunch of heat sinks, and that's going to be my mech. So you can come in here, experiment. I apologize for the cough. You can come in here and experiment with your mech, figure out exactly the build that works for you and for your particular playstyle, and have it ready to go so you don't have to ever do stuff by experimentation in game and spend millions of C-bills needlessly. And now I've got my mech. 2 heavy VPC, Black Knight, done. But that's a hypothetical mech that I would probably never build. Let's face it. Now, let's go do the real thing. So here in Mechwarrior Online, I've just logged in. when you're building a mech, now that you know how to build it virtually, using Smurfies over here, so now that you know how to build it virtually in Smurfies, when you go to build the real thing, when you are building your mech, you want to design it around a particular weapon system. For instance, Banhammer here, the Hunchback, is designed around the AC-20 and a medium laser burst. The weapons are grouped by AC-20 and medium lasers. The medium lasers on 3 are grouped in a cycle fire, which means that I pressed backspace during the match so that they would go off one at a time. So when I hold the 3 key, it goes one laser. When that laser finishes, it fires the next one. When that laser finishes, it fires the next one, and they fire in sequence. When I press 2, they all just fire at the same time. And then I have my AC-20. So Banhammer here is based on this AC-20. The idea being that I have this giant cannon that I want to really, really shove into somebody. Whereas Dirty Hippie is based on these 2 large lasers and this trio of medium lasers in the center. But that is where you base your weapons. You need to start at a mech that has nothing on it. So I'm going to go through building Wrath of God. That is the name of this mech. So I'm going to strip all equipment. That happens first. So we can see now that I have, with no engine and only my armor on this mech, put on the mech as I had it before, I have 49 tons to play with. The first thing you do when building a mech is you decide your engine type. If you're building a light mech, for instance, an XL engine is great because you need to go as fast as possible for as little weight. If you're building a bigger mech, though, you need to decide if a standard engine is worth it or not. Standard engines provide the most survivability because the only way to kill you is to blow out your center torso. However, in the case of this mech, a standard engine, to make it go a decent speed, is going to be very heavy for it. 25 tons to be exact. And I kind of want to fit some ballistic weapons. More importantly, this is a heavy mech. A lighter heavy mech. Because it's only 65 tons. It's only 5 tons above the category of heavy. So therefore, it's in my best interest probably to fit a light engine. A light engine means that if I lose 2 torsos, it doesn't matter which 2, I'm dead. But it does provide me with a whole lot less weight. You'll see here that this, let me shift my camera for you so we're not in battle mode. This is 18 tons for a light engine. Whereas if I wanted to equip, say, a standard engine of the same variety, 275, I would be paying 3.5 more tons. And if I wanted to switch it to an XL 275, well, I'd only pay 14 tons, but I'd die as soon as I lost a torso. And this mech needs to last longer than that. A heavy mech kind of need to last longer. Usually. You can fit some heavy mechs with your bigger engine, your XL engine. But it really depends on what you're using the mech for. I'm using this mech for brawling. If I was making a sniper, like my K2 catapult, an XL engine's fine because I shouldn't be the one who's got my face in the front line. So now I've got that set. I then put in a bunch of ER medium lasers. So now I've got my lasers and my AC-5s. I need ammo for those AC-5s, and I need to put, and I want to take advantage of the fact this mech has 2 anti-missile systems. So I put everything in, and what I've done here is I've built this mech around using these 2 AC-5s for suppressive fire. I fire one, then the other, one, then the other, one, then the other, and it's just this constant stream of AC-5 hits. Meanwhile, the medium lasers are a focused 30-point slam that pinpoints 30 points of damage wherever I point them. Lots of pointing. Lots of pointing going on here. and that's their objective, is to rip armor or components out of the enemy. For an AC 5, usually a ton and a half of ammo is enough. So as you can see, I put a full ton in the head, a half ton in the center torso, and the rest in the legs. Here's the reason why. Ammunition explodes when it's hit. Ammunition draws from the head, then the right torso, then the left torso, then the right arm, then the left arm, then the center torso, then the right leg, then the left leg. So since there's no ammo in either side torso or either arm, it's going to go head, center, leg, leg. So by the time that my center torso is stripped open, I should be down to this ammunition down here that's in the legs. And unless somebody goes for the legs of a heavy mech, which I've almost maxed the armor out on, 9 times out of 10, I will be fine with this ammunition loadout. Now the last thing you add is heat sinks, and then you check your heat efficiency. That's terrible. 1.25 out of 2 is pretty bad. You will overheat consistently. How do you fix that? Well, you're either going to have to add more heat sinks, put on less hot weapons, or something else. So how do I fix this? Well, I take these ER medium lasers off because there's no sense in them. This is a brawling mech. My AC5s have plenty of range. Why would I want to overheat before the brawl? So let's put on standard medium lasers. Now look at that. My heat ratio is up to 1.3, which is manageable. For a new player, you really want a heat ratio of 1.5 or higher. That's when you're fitting your first mech, you really want to achieve that 1.5 or more for your first mech. If you can't quite achieve that, you might have a problem. Now I'm noticing here that I should probably switch this out now to a full ton of ammo because I don't have the extra tonnage anyway. And there we go. We've restored this back to the original Wrath of God. Very basic mech, no advanced weapons here, no new tech weapons, no ER weapons, I'm just a big old brick that's here to brawl. It's what it does. Now consumables, I recognize that this is not a very good heat ratio, so to compensate I get a cool shot. Now once you have constructed your mech, you're not done by a long shot. I've constructed this mech around these 2 AC5s providing suppressive fire, while the medium lasers provide a pinpoint strike in a brawl to tear off components or strip armor. It does it very quickly, it does it very efficiently, and the AC5s are very good at keeping the enemy suppressed and allowing me to have continuous fire even when I'm running hot. Now we get into the skills section. Every mech has 91 nodes they can have unlocked at one time. You unlock each node for 800 XP. You get a node unlock, a skill point if you will, for every 800 XP you're willing to spend. Then I go in here and I unlock nodes. Now as you can see, because of if you want more firepower, range, weapons cooling down faster, higher velocity weapons, bigger magazine sizes, you come over here to firepower. They decrease laser duration, your missile spread can be tightened up, your missiles can get better critical chance, and your heat generation can become much better. You also get Gauss charge, LBX spread getting tighter, and your Ultra AC5s and Rotary AC5s have less chance to jam and their jam bar goes away quicker. Next to that, we have the survival tree. This is all about reducing the enemy's crit chance, increasing your AMS's capabilities, reducing how much fall damage you take, and increasing your armor and internal structure. For a lot of inner sphere mechs or heavy-duty brawling mechs, this is essential. Because the biggest advantage I will have a different video going over clans in inner sphere. The biggest advantage the inner sphere often has is their mechs can take a whole lot more abuse. Next to that, we have the mobility tree. This tree is literally what it says. braking faster, accelerating faster, your torso and arms rotating further or faster to one side or the other. You're turning your mech faster, and at the bottom of the tree, this little V here is what's called speed tweak, which literally just improves the top speed of your mech by 7.5%, which doesn't seem like a lot until you remember that for a light mech, improving its speed by 7.5 is like 12, 13 kilometers an hour. So that's what this tree does. It's all about being more mobile and more capable. As you can see, I've maxed it out for this particular mech because part of this mech's survival is all that torso rotation between firing my volley of medium lasers and then torso twisting to keep myself shielded if I'm under fire, or using that AC-5 to keep suppressing, and the sheer speed it has as a heavy mech, in addition to having all of this extra armor plating. Next is jump jets. It's what it is on the carton. You can make your jump jets generate less heat. You can make them push you further forward. You can make them push them further up. You can give them a longer burn time. You can make them lift you off the ground faster. All of that wonderful stuff. Operations is about compensating for condition. So speed retention compensates for when your mech has lost a leg, giving you an increased top speed when you've lost your leg. Normally your top speed is 1/4 of what your maximum speed is with a busted leg. With speed retention, you can increase it up to 50 kilometers an hour. It's very useful for light mechs to still have some mobility if you actually need this tree. The big part of this tree, though, is heat containment and cool run. Heat containment increases the amount of heat you can have inside your mech, thereby meaning you can fire more weapons and do more jump jets and move faster for longer. Cool run increases how much your heat sinks cool you. And these little 2 and 3% chances amounts don't seem like much until you add them all up and realize that heat containment would be 12% if I maxed it out, and cool run would be 10% if I maxed it out. 10% more heat sinks would make a big difference. Next is your sensors. If you invest in this tree, it's to make it where you can stay locked on a target quicker. You can also get you can get the big ×4 zoom magnification, and some mechs even come with mods to make this better, such as the K2 catapult. Target retention, i.e. when the target goes around behind you, how long do you retain it for? Base is 0. This gives you some time to retain it. Radar deprivation, how long do the enemies keep a lock on you after they've broken line of sight? And increasing your ECM system, as well as having the seismic sensor, which happens when you're standing still. You'll see red blips on the map indicating that there's a mech there, even though you can't actually see the mech. Lastly, auxiliary is for your consumables. Better coolant shots, more coolant shots. Better arty strikes, more arty strikes. Better narcs, better capture, better UAVs, more of them. Very useful for lighter mechs who rely on their consumables for UAVs and their artillery strikes. Or if you need a mech to have multiple coolant shots, you can literally put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points in here, and you can have enhanced coolant shots and 2 of them. So, when you're building your mech, once you've finished it, you need to come into the skill tree and plan out your skill tree. And then start, as you get experience, you spend the XP to get the skill points and unlock the skill tree to enhance your ride. It is black and white, the differences. I will show you this live. So my heat management right now is 1.32. If I go in here to skills and I take off every single heat gen nodule, not counting the fact that I'm losing a bunch of AC-5 ammo by doing this. If I turn off every single heat generation nodule, and then I go over to here and I turn off the heat containments and the cool runs, just all of them, and I apply. My heat management says 1.32. Right? Wrong. That's going to drop when I go into the match in comparison to the 1.4 plus I had when I had all of this unlocked. It doesn't show it in the mech stats. That's the problem. But it is a massive, massive difference. Now, there are certain things that do show up in the mech stats for you. One of them is the proverbial brain. Hold on. That's not one of the ones I picked. Alright, let's improve gyros. And what I can actually get here is I can sacrifice that heat gen and that cooldown. Show you a little trick. And I can get this heat containment and keep that heat gen. There you go. Hey, look, I found something live while we were doing this. Or did I plan that and script it out? You decide. Comments. Let me know. So now I know, but I can do things like this. I scroll over here and I see the green. The green indicates the change based on skills. So I'm getting 6 extra bullets from my skills per ton of ammo. That's 6, 12, 18, 24 bullets. My AMS ammo doesn't move. I scroll over here and I see the green. I see I'm getting a little bit of heat dissipation, not a lot. A little bit of cooldown, not a lot. But my range is way up on these AC5s. And then over here on my medium laser, ooh boy, that's actually not bad. That's a decent amount of heat decrease per laser and cutting their cooldown by almost half a second. That's pretty good. Yeah, that's pretty good. And then it's going to increase their range. Their maximum range by a significant amount, and their optimal range by about 8-9%. And the AC5s are getting the same increase. That's actually pretty useful now that you see it on paper. More importantly, my speed without speed tweak would be less than 70. Now that it's more than 70, a heavy mech moving at that speed is kind of scary. And then when I scroll over my AMS, the AMS overload, look at that. Almost a 50% increase to my AMS output. And I have 2 of them. So it's both of them getting a nearly 50% buff is like having 3 anti-missile systems on this mech that don't have the buff. And next we can observe my armor is getting 9 points on the front here, 1 on the rear. 13 on the front, 1 rear here, 9 on each leg, 4 on this arm, 6 on this arm, 3 more on the head. And then when I open up the mech stats, it shows all of the skill changes that are happening in addition to the mech's abilities. This mech particularly has the ERPPC and IS ERPPC cooldown and velocity that I'm not even using. Not using them at all. Which means I'm not using this mech's quirks to its maximum advantage. The laser duration's nice, but I'm not really using this mech's quirks to its maximum advantage with this setup because it's not using PPCs. I don't want to use PPCs. I have a PPC, one of these. I kind of don't like it, which is why I made it a large laser. Link. So when you're setting up your mech, check the mech's quirks, because I'll show you a mech now that I checked the quirks on and stayed true to them. Here's the band. Actually, let's do the Fafnir, because it's... So, the Fafnir has an IS Gauss cooldown, and I have 2 heavy Gauss rifles. I stayed true to this mech's quirks and aligned it with building it around these 2 weapon systems, which is actually its stock configuration. I just replaced the mediums with ER mediums and gave it an extra heatsink and an AMS for a little bit of armor. Okay, and by putting endosteel on it too. So when you build your mech, select the weapon system you want to use because that's the most important part of the mech. Here with the K2 catapult, its stock configuration is PPCs. It even has, if I'm not mistaken, quirks geared towards PPCs. Ballistic range, energy heat, PPC velocity. The extended guard charge is actually a skill bonus. But you see, it has these specific things. PPC velocity, ballistic range, that are specifically towards this mech. And you can view them in the store as well. So now that you've played a bunch of trial mechs, and you've gotten your hands on the weapon system you most want to use. You can then come in here and check for the quirks. That's why I said we're going to build a PPC Black Knight. Look at that. It gets bonuses for PPCs. It's like I planned this out. Those of you who said I didn't, trust me, I did. Just sometimes it seems like I'm stumbling over myself because I'm crazy. But in the meantime, you select the mech you want for the weapon systems it gives the bonuses to, because you're trying to build something around those weapon systems. In the case of the Black Knight I specifically mentioned, this Black Knight, the BL6, has 2 AMSs, which is very useful for faction warfare since people like to use missiles a lot in the open environments that happen sometimes, like Polar Highlands. Having dual AMS would be wonderful. And you see here on the quirks, the biggest thing here is the increased sensoring. It's a very sturdy mech. It gets a lot of extra structure points, but other than that, it doesn't get anything particularly towards one weapon system or not. So I come in here and we just start playing around to figure out how we want to build it. And then once we figured out how we want to build it here, we can go to Smurfy's. Or we can do it the other way. We can start in Smurfy's and come back to the game and build it here, see how much it's going to cost me to get that mech put together, and then assemble my ride. Now, once you've assembled the ride and it's ready to go, you go out and test it. Don't go on the battlefield. What are you thinking? Testing ground. I like Tourmaline Desert. Good grief. Taking it straight on the battlefield. You think I'm a noob? You thought I was a noob. I'm so hurt. You can come apologize to me at the live stream tonight. Now, in the meantime, here on the testing ground, it's going to spawn you in, and the reason I picked Tourmaline Desert is because it's going to spawn me in very close to this Atlas. There may be a couple of other mechs littered around, but this is just for relevance of this video. I can then walk over to this Atlas. This is a stock AS7D Atlas. There is no modifications to this mech whatsoever. I can then test out the mech I'm in and get it aligned and figured out. So this mech I know has ×4 zoom. I can also see where the Atlas's hitboxes are. In this case, is the AS7D's cockpit here, or is it here? Let's find out. It's there! So now for future reference, when somebody shuts down, I know to shoot the D version of the Atlas in the left eye. Now I simply charge up my Gauss rifles and I can see where the hitboxes are now. Now if you're going to aim at an Atlas, for instance, I'm going to use the ×4 zoom just to illustrate this. This is kind of the cutoff of the arm. So if I shoot here, it counts as the arm. But if I shoot here, just one block over, it counts as the shoulder. And therefore it counts as the side torso. So on the Atlas, this is his arm area. This is his torso. And then his center torso starts here. This little block here is still the side torso. This is why this mech is so survivable, is because it is very much a segmented piece, and if you don't shoot the right segment, you're not going to kill it. Next on the legs, this whole crotch of the Atlas, this area and this whole center crotch are all center torso. But this, that's a leg joint. That's the side torso. So these little plates here on the side, they are side torso. That's the leg joint, and this is the main piece of the Atlas. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and kill this Atlas real quick.
Target destroyed.
There's a light mech in the distance. And here's where I can really test out my ×4 zoom skills by moving my mech around. This is really useful to get used to the ×4 zoom because it's actually quite difficult to use because of how far in you actually are zoomed in. Because this is a normal mech zoom. This is ×4.
Target acquired.
And you just get used to your mech's movement and your weapon velocities and you can test out your mech, and you can figure out what it takes to overheat your mech, and you can figure out, and you can go exploring the maps with actual enemies to shoot at on your way through. And you can practice keeping your aim on a target. So instead of just like aiming these medium lasers at the target, for instance, I want to shoot him in the shoulder right there. So I'm going to practice keeping the medium laser on that shoulder. And you can do this over and over again, and you can keep testing mech builds, and you can keep experimenting. And I think I got a lucky headshot there, so I can do it again. Nope, that's the center torso. See, can I get the lucky headshot? Nope. That's the other torso. See how hard it is to actually shoot things in the head? And then you can see how survivable these mechs are. You can test out hitboxes. You can figure out where to shoot things, as well as, again, at what point you should let your mech cool off and cool down. You were supposed to die from that.
Target destroyed.
Thank you. And then you can just rampage around the desert and just keep killing targets over and over again. Not all mechs are present here for you to test out on, but enough are present here for you to get some work in for the current ride, experiment, and then go back to your mech lab and figure out what's working with your with the ride you've set up and what's not before you take it to the battlefield. So, that has been Mechwarrior Academy, ladies and gentlemen, for this particular episode. Here's a previous episode about why Mechwarrior Online, World of Tanks, and Armored Warfare are very similar games, and you should probably consider playing all of them. If, however, you want to see the start of the series, well, there's a playlist in the description below, and this video is attached to that playlist as well. Furthermore, I will be on Fallout Equestria tonight at 9 p.m. My book is coming out at the start of March. Within the first week of March, we'll have it out and ready for you guys. And on top of that, I will be at HarmonyCon this weekend. So hopefully I will see you in Dallas, Texas. And in the meantime, please do drop likes. You stayed this long, by God. You wanted to see me act all silly and crazy and antsy and stupid. You stayed this long. You may as well finish it. Am I right? So, and in the next episode of Mechwarrior Academy, we'll go over basics of teamwork. So there you go. I'll see you guys later. Good night, everybody.